we knew war was coming, and they had just mobilized the Arkansas National Guard unit. And so I went and joined the Army, and they was just filling the guards up with Arkansas men. And so that's where I ended up. That's where I spent my career, 4 years and 7 months. Went to the county seat and signed up to go to the National Guard. Everybody had to go through the county seat that they lived in. And so I think there was 21 of us. They was bringing them in, they was getting men in to fill up the National Guard, but they didn't tell us that or anything. We just volunteered to join the Army. And so then we shipped us out from there to Port Chaffee, Little Rock, and we was there overnight. I think we was there just one night, I believe. And next day they put us on a train, and I don't think we even knew where we was going until we got to Port Sill, Oklahoma. The reason we were here in the United States so long, they was taking men out of our outfit and forming new units because they knew they were going to have to fight Japan and to build an army as fast as they could go against Japan. And in our outfit, they'd come in and say we need, out of a battery had a little over 100 men in each battery. Well, they'd come in and say we need 25 men out of your battery, C battery, and out of C battery, and so many out of the other batteries, and and then they form a new unit. Whatever, all them men is trained. Well, every man went out with a higher rating than he had. If he was a corporal, well, he went out as a sergeant, and that's where I ended up. There was only out of ever how many men this time. There was one lieutenant, fell in, so I was the one picked for that. And I went to the captain and asked him, is it all right if they didn't take my name off the list? Well, no, why? I said, well, I just like to stay with the outfit. And I said, that rating don't mean anything to me now. If it was peacetime, I'd have really jumped for it. But I knew where I was going. And so that was the reason I didn't want to go. So that way, he said, well, we got a lot of guys that'd be glad to have it. I said, well, just put one of them on there then. So then we were there. See, we went in the summertime, we spent, seemed like it was about 4 weeks in Louisiana on maneuvers. We was going through training like we would be in real combat. As long as we got notice then to prepare everything for shipping. And the big guns, we had to treat them all the whole outside, you see, because that salt water air, would have ruined them going over there out in the open, shipping them across the ocean. So we had to treat those guns with, I forget what it was, some kind of special treatment to keep the salt water from corrosing them up, and messing them up. The boat was an old Italian boat that had been captured earlier and remodeled for a troop ship. And they said the boat that we landed on, they had about 7,000 soldiers on it, but the boat ordinarily to be comfortable would be about comfortable for about 2,000. So that's the way they're packing us in, get as many people over there to Europe as possibility. Around the walls, they had bunks. They wasn't over 2 foot apart. And we had to sleep there. And on the foot of the bunks, we had 2 barracks bags, which we're supposed to have but one, but big barracks bag, because that extra one we had that we were responsible for. But we had to figure out a way to get that, and we'd tie them on the foot of the bed. There's only maybe that much space between this section of beds here and that section here. And we were 13 days on that boat, no ventilation or nothing. That's what we lived with. We see we wasn't allowed to go out on deck when we wanted to because there were that many men, they wasn't even, that deck wouldn't hold even just a few of them, you see. So they decided though they would do something to kind of relieve us and just switch off from time to time and let us go out at night and take some of our quilts or things, blankets and things, and sleep out on deck, just so many men. Well, of course then, you wasn't allowed to have no kind of a light or nothing, you see. you wasn't allowed to smoke a cigarette or anything. Even the boats wasn't allowed to have any lights on them outside. And but we gets out on deck and gets our blankets all spread out, pillows. Everybody's laying down. Boy, it's so nice to be in this fresh air. Guy just had to have a cigarette, and he lit up a cigarette, and they made all of us go right back down the hole. Oh. And we threatened to throw him off the boat. We had one winter that we was bogged down with a bad winter and snow. We had the big trucks then. And they was 2 or 3 months that we was in one position, just one area there. And the Germans were bogged down too. We had a rough winter. I was on up in northern Italy. And we were bogged down in big trucks. You couldn't pull them guns anywhere. And so we got, they shipped us in these tanks, they call them the tanks, I believe. They're full tracks, like a Caterpillar tractor, except they had didn't have as big a track on them, and they'd travel. They would travel 30 or 35 miles an hour, but you couldn't run them that fast because it'd burn some of the wheels and things up. But like they did that moving at one time. But they got them while we were in there. And of course then they would pull through that snow and everything. When you get 2 foot of snow or 3 foot of snow or what it was. Well, I was a gunner for a long time with a corporal, and the sergeant got promoted, so I got his place. So I ended up as chief of section over the whole thing. The shell was 155 howitzer. That is a little over 6 miles. Six inches. Well, in other words, 6 inches is 150 millimeters. And that's 5 millimeters over. And the shell weighed 96 pounds just by itself. And when you put the powder in behind it there, well, it boosted off. Sometimes we'd fire just one gun. Well, a lot of times they get orders to fire one gun, and then to observe where it landed. Then they mapped it out so they'd know the area, they'd know where to give the orders for the others. Had phones from the headquarters here, which was right behind us. And so we had to be listening to them phones, you see, and that's where the orders come from headquarters to us. And then we had to get everything ready, and then we sat there waiting, and they'd say fire. Or sometime maybe they'll say, give you the order to move one way or the other, and they say fire at will. Well, just as soon as you got through, well, you fired your gun, you see. Each battery had to have a truck along with the battery with 25 complete rounds of ammunition for 4 guns. Well, when they got down to low with maybe just 4, 5, 6 rounds of ammunition, that truck had to unload 25 rounds to each gun, and we had sitting back, I don't remember now, maybe 8 or 10 miles out of enemy range. We had to call a rear echelon where we had all of our supplies and everything back there. Well, I had to know where that was. As we got on up where we was moving pretty fast. And so when a truck got empty, I had to go with that truck back there in the dark, all dark, completely dark. Go with that truck back there, and another truck was sitting back there loaded with 25 rounds on it. And so I had to come up with him, show him how to get to the outfit like that. And that was about the most kind of weariest thing, because just being up that road one time for maybe 10 miles, well, at night, it's dark to start with, and going through a little town, all that stuff. I mean, you didn't know exactly whether you was going to come out on the right road or not. But anyhow, I was lucky. I didn't ever miss a time, but I'd ride with the guys. I can remember so well, this one guy, he was from Arkansas, but he drove a truck, and went back, and I coming up with him, and we went through this little town, and the little old towns, you couldn't, 2 big trucks couldn't meet them on the street in them little towns, so you went through the town and you had to bypass coming back. So I had to know that too. But anyhow, we went through this little town, and after we got out of the little town, about a mile, there was a dead horse on the side of the road. I think it was a German horse that had been killed and been laying there for a long time. And boy, I mean, you know how something like that smells, a dead horse, and that odor knocked you down. Well, after we passed that horse, it wasn't over maybe a quarter or half mile to where our outfit was set up. Well, we got out of that little town. Well, the towns, the cities didn't have any lights either, so they were completely dark, because they're just, everything closed up after dark. So we got in this little town going through there, and I said, now we got to make a left-hand turn up yonder, and I've got to really watch it because there's no signs to anything. I said, we drives along there, and I said, I think we're getting close to it. And I said, I believe here's the street, we got to make a left. We make a left, we're going out of town, you see. Well, we get out there, that dead horse about a quarter of a mile in when it was. I told him, I said, well, if you smell something now, we'll be on the right road. He said, boy, I sure do hope I smell something. But if you get on the right road, you go somewhere where you didn't want to be. And we was driving along there, and I can remember it so well. He's driving along there, you know, and he said, he said, I never smelled anything better in my life. I laughed at him about that. Well, it wasn't about a quarter of a mile where the outfit was set up, you see, but I can remember that so well. Hey, sniffed, you know, and she said, I never smelled anything better in my life. One day I said, Captain, how come you pick me for a lot of these details like that? Because you know it's kind of rough finding the way back here, just coming up here one time in the dark. He said, well, I'm going to give you a straight answer. He said, I had to have somebody that I knew when I sent them out there that I could go on with my business, not worry about it. And he said, you were the one. I said, well, I really appreciate you feeling that way about me, but I said, that's not funny. He said, I know it. But he did. He favored me in a lot of things. I kind of appreciated it. The war ended in May in 1945. Well, we were in there until the last days of September before we got out of Italy. But what it was, see, that was when they was war against Japan to full force, and they was taking every bit of transportation aircraft from everywhere, to, you know, going against Japan there. And that way, there was no transportation for us like that. So what they was doing, you know, they shipped us all that time. We were all over Italy. Of course, I'd already seen most of Italy anyhow. And but that time, well, they taken all the men. It was so many men that had so much time in the service was eligible for discharge. But we couldn't get in the United States to get discharged. And so we just lived, and we was all over northern Italy, Florence and Rome. In fact, we lived in Florence and Rome and little smaller towns closer around all this time that have motels, empty motels, that have places set up for soldiers to live in, like in Rome. And we was in Rome for, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 months, and we was just free to get out and run out anywhere we wanted to. The Italian people seen one of us American soldiers, boy, they'd yell at us or run out and talk to us. But you take the Indian or Florence or Poland or Indian, other soldiers walk by there, they just let them walk around by and speak to them. But if it's American soldiers, boy, they'd run out and stop you. They'd just run and stop you and talk to you. Every one of them would tell you that Germany would have taken over if it hadn't been for American soldiers, that the American soldiers saved them like that. And they'd just do anything in the world for you. Well, we knew maybe it was coming to a close, but you know, the type of person we were at that time, what we'd been through with, was nothing meant a whole lot to us. We just let some things, you'd jump up and down and clap your hands. Well, you just let it go on like it just, you know. Now, like I couldn't say this thing to anybody except the guy that seen this there. But I've had guys fall dead right beside of me and just going like nothing ever happened at the time. But right now it would just shake me something terrible.
But after you see so much.
Then what we went through with and the training and everything like that, well, nothing meant anything. Listen, I come out of service, there was a year before I would even go to any kind of a party or anything. It was a year before I started feeling like that I belonged in this society. Because I just wasn't even a human being. I sent money home. I was pretty good in poker. And I made about as much money while we was overseas in poker as I did in paycheck. And I wouldn't blow my money, but I had plenty of spending money. But I'd save up and hit a big game or two, and I'd maybe end up with $125. Well, you could buy a $100 money order. That's as much as you could buy. You could buy one every day, but you could buy one. So I'd go buy me a money order and send it home and to my dad. And I told him, I said, put this in your name. Something happens to me, it's your money. Well, I spent close to $3,000 that 2 years I was over there. That was a whole lot of money then, quite a bit. Well, I told him, I said, spend it any way you want to now. Well, he still had 2,000 of it in the bank when I come home. So he put that all over my name. Well, I gave him 500 back. And then I bought me a nice car. I don't regret my military service experience, but there's a lot of things that I would like to forget if I could, but there's a lot of things you don't forget.